Hello and welcome to the Overwhelm is Optional podcast. I'm your host, Heidi Mark, and as a self-proclaimed ambassador for ease, my mission is to bring you more ease into your life, getting you out of the horrid fog of overwhelm and living the life you always meant to. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Overwhelm is Optional. So this is the episode that's all about my amazing method, which I've called neutral noticing, which has been having amazing benefits for all sorts of people, and I'm going to share with you more detail about it. So I have taught it a few times on the podcast for free. It's basically tuning in and noticing what's going on in your body, which gives you a break from whatever's going on in your head. And who doesn't want a break from the busyness of their mind? And this is often what people are seeking when they want to meditate. But meditation doesn't always result in clearing the mind. It's not actually the point of it. The point of meditating is gaining the skill and the discipline of just spending part of your day committing to learning to harness your attention. So with mindfulness meditation, you're going to notice the mind and you're going to focus on the breath, and the mind is going to keep distracting you and just keep coming back to the breath. And the practice of doing that over and over again builds up the skill of controlling your attention. So it doesn't necessarily clear your mind. There's some days when your mind's going to be super busy. It's going to be time traveling, space traveling, doing whatever it's doing. It's going to be doing that loop of doom that our minds tend to do because we have a cognitive bias towards everything negative. And that's just an evolutionary advantage to keep us safe that makes us miserable. So mindfulness is going through your day with an awareness. But the problem is often mindfulness separated from the lovely Buddhist practice doesn't always help, because you're going through your day and you're really aware of how you feel, but you don't feel great. So then that doesn't really help. All you've got is awareness of being miserable. So the full package would involve compassion and gratitude and all sorts of lovely, lovely stuff that comes from Buddhist philosophy. So I have practiced different sorts of meditation, mainly Buddhist meditation, mindfulness meditation. So the focusing on the breath over and over again, I've done that for hours of my life. I've also practiced mindfulness. But for me, what happened through my journey was that because I ignored the signals from my body in order to achieve my goals, I got sick and I ended up in a lot of pain, and my body was just screaming at me. And in the end, my body was screaming at me to quit my job and to go full on with my business. So that's how I've ended up here. But that means that my journey has been through pain from disconnecting to the body, through reconnecting to the body and healing. And then when originally I started teaching Zen yoga classes, and what I found is that people were starting to say things to me like, as within minutes of being in my class, all of their stress left. And I found this really interesting, just paying attention to what was going on in my classes. So I expected to be teaching quite physical yoga, and what actually happened is it was very, very difficult to get people to move because they didn't need to move. So there's a lot of exhaustion. I think it's quite common, but I think we have a huge resistance to resting, and we have a huge resistance to pausing. And it's pausing that neutral noticing is about. So when you look at some of the research about how meditation and mindfulness rewire the brain, there's something really powerful about pausing and noticing. So often we go through our day reacting, don't we? And for those of us who are very driven high achievers, we get very, very good at reaction, at having to make a decision. So if you're in a position of leadership, you have to make decisions very quickly because there's lots of decisions to be made, and it's your job to do that, to lead. But when we get really overwhelmed and we get stuck in our head and we're just reacting, we get disconnected from our body, and often we get disconnected from our heart and our purpose. So we just end up getting through. But as high achievers, we just get really, really, really good at getting through. So we get lots done and we're achieving highly, but actually our life is not what we intended it to be. And we may start to notice a disconnect between our heart and our why, what are we doing all this for? And also you start to get increasing unease in the body and noticing maybe problems in relationships, or health, or quite often an inability to have fun and switch off. So pausing allows you to move from reacting and getting through to responding and really living. And what neutral noticing does, I have noticed, because this has emerged through my work, through my journey of pain and healing, and through the journey of the people that I've worked closely with. So neutral noticing is literally pausing, getting out of the head, tuning into the body. So it's body mindfulness. It's very grounding. So we usually start with the feet and then the belly, often the heart, etc. And we're just allowing a softening if it wants to happen. And the allowing of a softening allows the body to reset itself. It allows all your cells to stop spinning and just for a moment start to rest and reorganize themselves. It allows the nervous system to reset, which is absolutely necessary for healing of any sort. And along the way, what neutral noticing does is it starts to change your habits, but it does it in such a way that it's not threatening. So, for example, it's going to teach you to harness your attention in the same way that mindfulness and meditation does, because even though we're not sitting on a cushion for an hour, even though sometimes, my shortest tune in is 1 minute. But the thing is, to do that 1 minute, for some people that's really challenging. Just 1 minute is really challenging. And that's why the length of it is 1 minute, because there was a need for a 1 minute tune in. The tune-ins are the practical audios to help you establish and embed neutral noticing in your life. So you'll hear me say that interchangeably. So neutral noticing is the whole thing. Tune-ins are the little tiny practice points. And sometimes they're a minute and sometimes they're up to about 20 minutes, depending. Usually relaxations are longer. And those ones that you can depend on throughout the day are really, really short. So because in neutral noticing, the process of neutral noticing is tuning into the body, getting out of the head. And then what happens is the mind yanks back your attention. And usually you don't realise. So this is similar to when you're meditating, you're focusing on the breath and suddenly you realise that you're writing a shopping list, or your attention is in another room or another country or another time. So our minds can travel so much faster than the body. So over and over again, you're going to have to purposely bring your attention back to the body. And the process of doing that rewires the brain, and it creates this ability, this real skill to harness the power of your attention. And this is really cool because where you place your attention is your life. So practicing harnessing your own attention, wow, that's amazing. That means that you can focus on the good stuff and take a break from all of the nonsense in your head about all the terrible things that might happen. I know it's not always nonsense, but in general, our minds have this cognitive bias to point out everything that's wrong so we can save our life. And that's an evolutionary advantage which makes us utterly miserable. So there are times when we need that, but most of the day, particularly in the Western world, we don't need that. There's no reason to be in high alert, but we get stuck in high alert. So neutral noticing allows you to control your attention by practicing very simply and very gently. And personally, I find it easier to bring my attention back to sensations in the body than just to the breath. There's lots of reasons for that for me. There's lots of reasons for other people. It's not a criticism of mindfulness meditation. It's just an alternative. And that, because that's my journey. So it comes out of my journey. That's my strength in teaching. But also what happens is if you've been ignoring your body for a long time and you're starting to get increasing unwellness and pain and discomfort and low energy levels, the very act of purposely placing your attention on yourself, on your body, is really powerful, because just noticing what's going on for you is like listening. And when we're listened to, that's really empowering, it's really valuable, and it feels really kind. So there's the noticing what's going on in the body with kindness, with curiosity, with playfulness, rather than with judgment, because it's easy for us to go, oh no, I've got another niggle, now what am I going to have to do? Oh, this is terrible, now I'm not going to be able to do masses of things. So it's the neutral in the noticing, which is absolutely awesome. I have to say, it's so powerful. So we just keep noticing neutrally what's going on in the body. So you're harnessing your attention, you're noticing your body rather than ignoring it, and your body responds really well to that because it wants to be heard. There is all sorts of wisdom in your body which can help guide you through your day. So, for example, tuning into your heart space, the center of your chest, and noticing when it feels restricted, when it feels like somebody's stealing your energy. So that can affect your boundaries and relationships with other people. You can use your heart to negotiate that really gently. You don't have to say anything. You can just notice it. You don't have to do anything. And this is what's really important. There's neutral noticing, I'm discovering more and more, is huge. There's like layer upon layer. So we can get more and more skillful. We can use these signals more and more and more. And the more I use it and the more I work with clients, the more I'm learning. And it's really, really exciting. But it's also incredibly simple. So you don't have to overthink. You don't have to do anything with it. And this is the point. If you spend all of your day pushing, trying to achieve, trying to control things, striving, you're very goal driven, or you just want to get stuff done, just spending 1 minute or a few minutes of your day just noticing without having to do anything is amazing. It's freeing. It's empowering, because it's such a relief. It is such a relief to tune in and notice, but not have to respond. I cannot overestimate the power of this. It is literally life-changing. So it also allows you to increase productivity, but in a way that doesn't damage your health, because it allows you to get into a state of flow and do deep work, which is when we make the most difference, when we are the most productive, but not at the expense of your health, because you can't actually do deep work for more than about 3 to 5 hours a day. And you don't need to, because when you're in a flow state, that enviable state, you get, time bends, and you just get out of your own way. You don't get distracted. You don't check social media. You don't check your emails. You don't answer the phone. You don't keep getting up and, wondering why you don't really want to be doing this. You don't do any of those things. You just get in this state of flow, which is deeply satisfying. You absolutely kick ass on your goals, whatever they are, and then you're done. So actually you can get probably more than a day's work done in a so you're bending time, and it's also energizing because you're really working at your highest potential. It's deeply satisfying. It's a much better way to go through your day. So I find it interesting, studies like, people in offices only really do a couple of hours of proper work in a day. And now we're working from home, maybe we can examine our working day, because it's bonkers everybody being out of their home for 10 hours a day to achieve 2 hours of work, particularly if that work's not meaningful for you, if it's not it's not what your heart's longing to do. So anyway, neutral noticing doesn't solve all your life problems. It's not about whether you should quit your job. It's about noticing what's true for you, and noticing what energizes you, noticing what drains you, and just taking a break, practicing not always reacting, practicing a pause and a notice. And another thing it does is it develops deep self-acceptance. And in the end, that's it, isn't it? That's the journey of self-development is about self-acceptance. It's about self-love. It's about saying, this is who I am, and I completely love and accept myself. And from that point of just examining that possibility, yes, we all have things we'd like to change about ourselves. Yes, we all mess up. We're all human. But starting by being on your own side changes how you move through the world. When you have compassion for yourself, when you love yourself, you are able to be more compassionate with other people. You are able to give from a place of not over-giving, which is actually quite demanding for other people. And you're also not draining on other people because you're not getting your needs met. It's just kinder. If we all move through our day with some awareness, able to respond rather than react, able to forgive ourselves when we mess up, which inevitably we will, we would be better at forgiving other people when they mess up. So this is really important because how you are in the world matters. Everybody you come into contact with, it matters. Whether you come into contact with them face to face or through email or on the phone or through social media, it doesn't matter. Whether you come into contact with people, whatever job you're doing, whatever work you're doing or whatever you're doing, it matters. It affects everyone. So for example, if I think about, we live in a renovation project, and if I think of a lot of the work we've had done, a lot of it hasn't actually been done with that much care. And that's caused us an enormous amount of stress. It's quite hurtful, actually, to trust people to do things in your home and then it's not done very well. So I think that things not being done particularly well is to do with this mindless getting through. Because I don't think anybody really gets up in the morning and thinks, I'm just going to go to work and do a really rubbish job. I don't really care. I mean, I think that can happen when people get very burnt out and disconnected, and it's very sad, but that's even more reason to reconnect, to listen, to notice how you're feeling, and then notice how you're acting and going through your day. So that, for me, if we can all connect to ourselves, if we can all start to honour who we are, practice self-acceptance, learn to love and appreciate ourselves, we will be more able to do that for others, and the world will be kinder. And when I mean kinder, I don't mean fluffier. Kindness is incredibly powerful, incredibly powerful. You think of when somebody's been kind to you, that stays with you, that shifts your world. Never underestimate the power of kindness. People are crying out for kindness, but you can't be kind from a place of lack. You have to look after yourself first. You have to nourish yourself first. And that's another thing neutral noticing allows you to do, because the very act of tuning in, of daring to take even 1 minute to tune in and listen to yourself, that's an act of self-care. It's a radical act of self-care. You don't have to do anything with it though, which frees you, because I do think that there is a deep fear of pausing, of noticing. I know I certainly had that for a long time. That if I noticed how I was really feeling, what would be the point? I couldn't change my job. I needed the money. I loved my job. I couldn't take a month off and sleep for a month even though I needed to, because that wasn't possible. So I didn't want to know. I just didn't want to know how I was really feeling because I was scared of the repercussions of daring to notice. But the great thing about neutral noticing is you don't have to do that. You're literally pausing and noticing and then moving on with your day. And I tell you what, that might not sound like enough. That might not sound like a life-changing thing. And yet it is. So this is why it's taken me, I mean, I have spoken about it a bit before, but it's taken me this long to really have the courage to embrace what I've created. And I know it's similar to, there's lots of other mindfulness and meditation kind of things, and there'll be similarities between what I do and somebody else does, but we all have our own interpretation, and this is mine, and this is what I've created, and I'm so proud of it. I'm so excited. I am blown away by the power of neutral noticing. So a little bit more about it quickly before the episode ends. It allows you to notice habits that aren't helpful. So for example, you're going through your day and you might start noticing that your mind is off on some rant about how that person over there's, somebody's annoyed you, and it's like, and you can hear yourself kind of being a little bit mean about them and a bit judgy about them, and you catch that because you're actually comparing yourself to them. And just the act of noticing that kind of thing, these habits that don't serve you, these habits that are born from a fear of lack, of there not being enough for everyone, of not being good enough, just noticing that is transformational. I'm not kidding. The noticing, the daring to notice with the freedom from having to do anything about it, which is neutral noticing. It's simple but profoundly powerful, and it takes minutes. It can take 1 minute in your day. Who's on board? Who wants to give it a go? Right, we're going to do a 1 minute tune in now. I'll just get a drink of water. So standing or sitting, and if it's appropriate to, you can close your eyes. Don't do this while driving. So place all of your attention in your feet. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice your feet. Maybe put a little bit more weight into your left foot and then your right foot to really help anchor your attention in your feet. What does the ground feel like beneath your feet? Just notice, curiously, playfully, and then take your awareness to your belly. Allow your belly to soften if it wishes to. And if it doesn't, that's okay. Just notice that too, completely neutrally. Don't try to change anything. Don't try to achieve anything. Just notice. And however you feel is however you feel. And then take your awareness to the center of your chest, your heart space. Notice any physical sensations here. Anything or nothing. Doesn't matter. Just notice. And each time you realize your attention has been hijacked by your mind or external distractions, bring all of your awareness back to your body. Feel your feet on the ground. Allow your belly to soften if it wants to, and if it doesn't, that's okay. Just notice that too. Allow your heart to open if it wants to, and if it doesn't, that's okay. Just notice. Notice how you feel. And each time you realize your attention has been hijacked, bring it back to your body, feet on the ground, softening belly or not, opening heart or not. Notice how you feel. And however you feel is however you feel. And that's okay. So just open your eyes and just take notice of how you feel from doing that. You can practice this at any point in your day that it's safe to do so. And just, maybe spend a moment journaling before you go to sleep about any effects and whether this is something you want to explore more. And then head on over to Instagram and sign up and get my freebie 1 minute tune in, and then you can start practicing it more easily because it will give you a direct link via email rather than trying to stop this podcast. but it's up to you. It would be lovely to have you sign up and start practicing that. So let me know how it goes, and I hope this has been helpful. I hope you're enjoying this podcast and finding it helpful. If you'd like to know more about how I work as a body mindfulness teacher and coach, you can go to my website, www.heidimark.co.uk, or you can follow me in the usual places, Facebook, Instagram, and more recently, YouTube channel. You can also book, for a limited amount of time, a free 30-minute coaching call by going to calendly.com/Heidi-ease.